It's springtime, my favourite time of year, and it's when the weather is warming up and the grass starts to grow. And for farmers across the country, it's a very busy time of year, particularly sheep farmers, because now is when the ewes are giving birth. It's lambing time. And lambing is quite a complicated process. So what we're going to do is talk to you about it over 6 episodes. In the series, we'll go behind the scenes on the farm. We'll meet the team, meet the ewes, and of course the lambs. We'll look at the preparation and the energy and effort that goes into the lambing process. And of course the care and husbandry that goes into making sure the lambs have a good beginning in their lives. We'll meet the visitors that come to the Cotswold Farm Park to witness the miracle of birth. Whether you're a sheep farmer, an animal lover, or just curious, we hope you'll enjoy this series as we follow the journey of our sheep. Coming up in this episode, we'll be looking at how we prepare the facilities for lambing, preparing and planning and getting your ewes in good order, and we'll take Gwen out for a run around the rams. Like most farms, our agricultural buildings are multi-purpose, and even here at the Cotswold Farm Park, our animal barn is used for different jobs throughout the year. But when it comes to lambing time, it's specifically designed just to suit the ewes and the lambs, but then also the general public who are watching our ewes give birth. We work with a firm called IAE, who are experts in animal housing and handling. And what they have done is helped us design the way we've laid out our lambing pen. What we've got is the shed here that we look at with the solar panels on the roof producing electricity. The green bits are curtains that are gale breaker that can move up and down depending on the temperature. You need a nice flow of air over livestock to keep them healthy so they don't get pneumonia. Below the green curtains are the gates that are sectional in each bay. Those gates open individually so that you can put a group of ewes in. And very cleverly on those gates is a section that can be lifted up so the ewes can look through and feed on the silage that's delivered daily by our forage wagon. Each of those pens will hold 20 to 30 ewes, and they're in their groups, and they'll be specific to each group why they're in that pen. It might be that they're all holding singles or twins or triplets, and so we can feed them different rations in the little windows outside. Each pen will have its own water trough. Fresh water is very, very important. And then in front of those pens are the individual pens. So the ewes give birth in the larger area. We then take them forward into this smaller area where we've got hurdles that contain them. So the families bond and the lambs don't get lost in amongst the other ewes. In that little area, there's also a water trough. So each one has its own trough. And there's a little tub to put the hard food in, because when the ewes give birth, they need extra protein. So we give them sheep nuts. And then there's a gap between the sheep and the general public. It's important that our visitors don't touch the newborn lambs because they don't want to pick up any diseases or infections from those lambs and give them to themselves. But also, most importantly, we don't really want our lambs covered in the smells of perfume and soap, because the ewe will sniff her lamb, it won't smell like her own, and she's likely to reject it. So there's a gap between the sheep and the general public. And then there's an area where people can walk, and then there's a tiered seating so people can get up right nice and high and see the ewes giving birth. So all laid out bespoke for our lambing that will go on for the next 6 to 8 weeks. When it comes to a breeding sheep flock, there's a huge amount of planning and preparation, and you need a good knowledge of how the sheep's body works and the whole breeding process. And so 5 months ago, these ewes were put to the ram, but the planning starts way before that. In each of these ewes' ears is a tag, and that tag has an electronic chip in it. And what that can do is be scanned onto a handheld computer that will download all the information that you have about her. And as things change, you add the information into it. So if I scanned this ewe's ear, I would know how old she is, how many lambs she's had in her life, whether she's had any problems. And then from that, I can determine whether I want to breed from her again. And if I do breed from her, which ram I want to put her to. On our farm, we've got around 13 different breeds of sheep, but our commercial flock, which we have about 500 ewes, they're clean Romney crosses. The clean is a breed of sheep from the Clean Peninsula, and the Romney obviously from the southeast. And what we've done is we've crossbred them, so we've got a hybrid breed really. Both have very good traits in the ewe that we want. So good maternal instincts, fantastic wool, they milk well, they give birth well, and their lambs grow fast. So they make a very, very good commercial ewe. And so what we do, when we've used the electronic chip in their ear to identify the ewe, work out who she is, what her breeding is, we then select the rams that we're going to put them to. So the more Romney type, like this ewe here, will go to the clean ram, and the more clean type will go to the Romney ram. And then also what we use is some Dorsets or other homebred rams that produce lambs for the table. And so what we do here is we home breed our own replacements. So we're a closed flock, so we don't bring in any disease. Other farmers will go out and buy breeding sheep from other farms, but here we breed all our own. And many of the ewes will be selected to produce females for the future, and others won't be performing well enough to do that. And what we want is prolificacy. So that means ewes giving birth to lots of lambs. So if a ewe has given birth to a single year after year after year, it means that her daughters won't be very prolific. They're unlikely to have twins themselves. So that ewe we'll put to a ram where the lambs go to the butcher. So once the ewes have been selected, we then put them into fields where the grass is lush and produces lots of food because it's called flushing. And so 3 or 4 weeks before topping, before the rams go in, we put the ewes onto good plane of nutrition so they feel really healthy, and then they ovulate a lot and produce lots of eggs that then can be inseminated by the rams when we put those in a few weeks later. When the ewes are selected to go with the various rams, we download that information from their electronic tag onto the desktop, but we also put a physical spray mark on them. So the blue dot in between their shoulders is blue for the Romney ram, and then there's green dots, which is for the clean ram. Green for clean, blue is Romney, and then some will have yellow on that will go to the Dorset. So we go through the selection process of which ewes are going to go to which rams, and then you have to start planning quite carefully. And so that is really determined by when you want to lamb. And for us on the Cotswold Farm Park, we want a bunch of ewes to lamb during February half term, and then the others to lamb during Easter. And then you work back from those dates 5 months, because the gestation period of a sheep is just about 5 months. And so then you work backwards, almost right back to when the ewes had their lambs from last year, when you're going to wean those lambs so the ewes can get themselves back into good condition, onto really good pasture, so they start to ovulate and feel really healthy. So when they go in with the rams 5 months before your lambing time, they're in tip-top condition and ready to conceive and get pregnant to the rams with their next lambs. In episode 2, we'll go to our lambing barn, where we'll talk more about the importance of nutrition, but also the process of birthing. Halfway through the ewe's pregnancy, we scan them. So a person comes with an ultrasound scanner, the ewes run through the sheep race, which is a narrow corridor. The scanner puts the scanner on the belly of the ewe and can determine whether she's carrying 1, 2, 3 or more lambs. And we put a mark on the ewes so we know who's carrying what. A red dot is a single, a blue dot is twins, and an orange dot is triplets. And sometimes we might get quads or even 5, and then we'll put 2 green dots. During the scanning process, as the ewes go through the handling system with their electronic chips in their ears, we then put into the computer how many lambs they're carrying. We condition score them, so we feel the backs of the sheep to see how meaty they are. When the ewes give birth, we want them to be in the perfect condition. Not too fat, so they have difficulty giving birth. Not too lean, otherwise they can get ill. And a ewe carrying a single needs a lot less grub than a ewe carrying a triplet. So we sort them into groups, singles, twins and triplets. But if we have a very lean twin, she'll go in with the triplets, or a very lean single, she'll go in with the twins. So they're getting a little bit more grub to build up their condition. And once they're in their groups, we'll then bring them into the sheds where they get a special diet. Another pre-lambing preparation is vaccination. So our ewes are on the Heptavac P system. That means that this vaccine covers a number of different sheep diseases. They get their first 2 injections when they're lambs, and then they get a booster every year. And vaccination is very important in livestock production, in fact in human health as well. And so this stops them getting various diseases, but we give them their Heptavac P now, 6 weeks prior to lambing, because the antibodies that are held within the vaccine go into the colostrum, the first milk, and that's what the lambs get. So it gives those lambs the immediate protection they need until they get their first vaccine. Another thing we do at this time of year is a thing called crutching, which is basically taking the wool off from around the back end of the sheep. And obviously these sheep are very, very woolly, and when there's wool all around their back end, it's difficult to see the lambs when they're being presented. And so this wool helps us be able to see what's going on, but it also keeps it nice and clean. Sometimes muck gets stuck to this wool, and what we want is a clean entry for the lamb into the world. Another great advantage of crutching at this time of year is once these lambs have given birth and they go out into the fields and the fresh spring grass grows, their muck often gets quite loose, gets stuck to the wool around their back end. Flies will be attracted that lay their eggs in that wool that hatch into the maggots, and then they can eat the sheep. And so with this crutching, it keeps it nice and clean so the muck doesn't get stuck to it, and then also they're very lovely and clean at shearing time. Right, there you go, missus. Now, I'm going to tell you about the rams. But first of all, I'm going to give the dog some exercise and round them up. Stand. Away. Away. So at lambing time, all the ewes are heavily pregnant, so you don't want to be chasing them around with a dog. So actually, to exercise the dogs and keep them trained, it's quite good to use the rams, because obviously the rams aren't pregnant and doesn't matter moving them around with the dog. The only problem is they're sometimes a bit stubborn. Away, round to the right. Stand. Away. Good girl. Away. 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 Come by. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Go on, boys. Good girl, Gwen. Come by. Stand. Stand. So, one of the things that stand with a dog when she's left some of the flock behind, there's a look back command to send her back to get sheep. So Gwen is now transfixed on the flock here, that are the main group of sheep, but there's some in the distance. And so I've just been teaching her this command. So what I want her to do is look over her shoulder and look at them and go and get them. So I'll stand between her and the sheep. Stand. Look, look, come by. So she looks back, and then she decided to go to the left, so I encouraged her on that left-hand command to help her do the right thing. And now she's bringing those to gather the flock. And then she's slowly walking in behind them. And now everyone's back together. So that's given the dog a bit of exercise, a bit of training. I'll now catch a ram for you. Away. Just bring them in. Away. Stand. Away. Good girl. Away. Good girl. Stand. Come by. Stand. Good girl. Naughty Texel. Come by. Good girl. Come by. Who's friendly? You are? So a good way to catch a sheep is to take it out of four-wheel drive by grabbing a leg. It doesn't hurt it. And then the other way to stop them is just to hold them under the chin. So by grabbing them on the wool, they'll just pull you around. So holding them under the chin, then you can hold them nice and still. So these are the rams, the daddies, the boys, or some people call them tups. Particularly up north, they're known as tups. Hence the word tupping, which is when they go in with the ewes. So when the rams are selected to go in with the various flocks of ewes, what we do is we put a harness on them. And this harness goes onto their chests. And on its chest, as the ram jumps the ewe to mate with her, it leaves a mark on her wool. And we change the colour of this crayon with us every 9 days, so we know which ewes are going to give birth when. So we start off with yellow, orange, green, red, blue and black. And when the ram mates with the ewe, it'll leave an orange mark like that on her coat. But of course, it's on her rump. So we've got all different coloured rumps where he's mating with her. We also, from that, will be able to tell if we've changed the colour through all the different colours of the rainbow, and the ewes keep changing colour, then potentially the ram is infertile. We need to change him. Or if a ewe, just one or two of them, keep changing colours, then that ewe might be infertile. But we'll also find that out when we scan them. So that's the job of the ram. A Dorset or a Clean or Romney ram, like we've got in here, will mate with up to 100 ewes during the tupping season. And sheep are seasonal creatures. So the ewes will ovulate in the autumn when the day length gets shorter, and that's also when the rams come into season. They get all fired up, ready for mating. And so we mate the ewes in the autumn, and then they give birth in the spring. And that's a natural process for grazing animals, because it's the springtime when the grass grows, and that's a good time to be giving birth. So the rams are in with the ewes for a couple of months. We then take them out, we mix them all back up together, and they live as a group of rams then from the spring right through the summer until the autumn. So now these boys just enjoy the grass and wander around, chatting to each other, and they have no paternal responsibilities at all. Their job when it comes to the birthing or the conception of the lambs is all done. So that's the rams, who can now just relax for the spring and summer. And on our next episode, we'll be looking at birthing and nutrition. Good girl, Gwen. That'll do. Here.